What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be taking a look at a tight, polished, very well-designed little castle siege defense, tower defense game called Nordhold. We had an opportunity to take a look at a demo for this game, I think about 8 months ago, and back then I could already see the promise that was rocking along. I thought the game looked really good. Well, we're back with the finalized release of the game, which is really nice, because this game is one of the very few nowadays that's not coming out in early access. You're actually getting a finalized version of this game when it releases, and since the game is releasing in the next couple days, I figured it was time to put 2 or 3 hours in and figure out my first impressions of this title to help you decide whether or not it's a title that you want to purchase for yourself. If after watching this you did indeed want to get the game, I've got a link for you down below just like I always do to support the developers, and then on top of that you can find a bunch of other Nerd Castle links down there that, like, I think they're really rad links, but you know, people are free to disagree with me if they want. I think they're pretty cool though. But let's dive on into the game. What exactly is Nordhold? As previously mentioned, this is a tower defense game where you're going to be holding off massive buttloads of enemies in order to survive for as long as possible. However, it's much more intricate than that. So if you ever played a game called Rogue Tower, I can virtually guarantee you that this game was very heavily inspired by Rogue Tower. If you never played Rogue Tower was a tower defense game that sought to roguelitify the overall equation that comprises a tower defense game while coming up with lots of different little quirks and twists and perks and all kinds of like roguelite elements of your tower and your city getting slowly stronger in between runs so that you can wipe out enemies more effectively each time around. This game has a lot of those aspects in there. In fact, I see a huge influence from Rogue Tower inside of this game. However, this also incorporates a giant city building aspect to the title that I think makes it actually really, really interesting because you're constantly racking your brain for the thing that you want to do next inside this game. So let's have a look at our little civilization here, and I'll talk about some of the basic mechanics so that you can figure out if this is the type of game that's going to tug your jimmy a little bit. So the main focus of this game is going to be the tower defense gameplay over here. And if you've played a tower defense game before, especially if you've ever played Rogue Tower before, a lot of this stuff will make sense very, very quickly. You place towers, you're trying to build roads that the enemies are forced down so that you can wipe them out using all of the various towers that are around. As your towers kill stuff or as waves go by in this game, you get upgrades for your tower when they level up. You can also spend money in order to level them up further. As of right now, the game has 8 towers. If that worries you on a gameplay variety front, don't stress about it because there's all kinds of ways that these things interact, and we'll talk about that later. But you've got this phase of the game where you're building out the map, and then you're trying to defend it the best that you possibly can as you get further on into the game. This current run is on wave 17. I'm not actually an hour and 15 minutes into this run. I had to take a break, and the clock keeps on running even if you have the game paused. And so I'm probably actually more like 40 minutes into this game right now. But the big hook here, you have a city off in this corner. So this city will produce resources for you on this right-hand side, like a turn-based game. If you've ever played Dottage, it's kind of like that. You have wood choppers down here. You assign workers to that wood chopper. You will get wood on the next day after you defeat the wave. Likewise for everything over here. And then on top of that, it takes you resources to build more houses so that you can get more worker slots, so that you can activate more buildings simultaneously, thus bringing in way, way, way more resources for every single wave. On top of that, you've also got upgrades inside each of these buildings. You've got on-run upgrades right here, and then you've got permanent upgrades over here that never go away. It also brings up a menu with all of these on kind of like a skill tree every single time that you lose, so you'll remember to spend your metagame currency. There's also buildings like the lighthouse, for example, that you unlock by hitting certain thresholds or getting certain achievements or getting certain scores. What the lighthouse does is it allows me to sacrifice my workers for a few days straight, giving up those resources, but when my workers come back, they will have completed a air quotes adventure, and they'll bring you a whole bunch of goodies on in here to help you out with your fight. You also have a hero that is sort of like the patron saint of your society down here. He's got Might and Magic, Heroes of Might and Magic style spells that he can throw out onto the battlefield to help with the fight. So right now I've got an AoE that does 228 damage, and I think each time I use it, it gets stronger. And then I've also got Chain Lightning over here that allows me to focus damage on a target very aggressively and have it hop around a little bit to kill stuff. On top of that, you see these little nodes and things on the map. Pretty sure those are useful. I'm about 2.5 hours into the game right now. I've played like 2.5, 3 hours. The game's really addictive. I got up early this morning to play it. Pretty sure there's buildings around that will harvest this stuff and give it to you, but I haven't unlocked them yet in the metagame progression. But I've seen sort of like these stubs and references to like some kind of building or utility that allows me to go out and gather the gold. There's also specialized tiles over here that will give you more range. You can also use altitude to give you more range, and picking the proper spots for all of your towers is a really, really good idea. We've got a couple of tower level ups that we need to deal with for right now. I'm going to go ahead and I will increase the firing rate, I think, of this tower right here. You can also optimize what you want them to attack, effectively setting up defense grids against certain types of enemies. This game does have a lot of enemy types. There are fast enemies with low HP. There are slow enemies that have a ton of HP, but they sprint like every 5 or 6 seconds. There are enemies that are like motherships. They've got like 1 billion HP, and then when you kill them, like 30 guys drop out of them and start sprinting towards the exit at crazy speed. There's slow guys that have just infinite HP and really high armor so that they can block attacks. You've got barriers, so there's guys that walk around. You know the Gungans, how they have those big dome shields that they use in Star Wars? There's guys that have shields like that. Very, very well-designed game in a lot of ways. I'm going to upgrade the damage on these mortar towers over here. Anything else need an upgrade, or are we looking good right now? I'm also going to add another... I'd like to add another Raven Tower, but it's going to cost a lot of money. This Raven Tower right here... This ignores barrier. Shoot, that's not great. Okay, I need to like fix that. I put this guy down specifically to attack barrier carriers, and so I don't know if he's actually hitting them and doing that much damage. I'll have to watch him on the next round before I spend the money on it to get the upgrade. We've also got a chest right here. The game does have lots of little after-wave rewards that you're going to get that incorporate Binding of Isaac style or Vampire Survivors style synergies and perks and merges and stuff like that. The first enemy to touch the village receives 9,000 area damage. That's pretty good. Final Rags. You can spend up to minus 20 gold while in debt, lose 2 gold per wave until balanced, 10% return when you're destroying a tower. I guess I'll just go with Blasting Welcome. It's the only one right there that's very useful. But let's start a wave here. Actually, maybe I'll go for a Runestone Tower over here where they all collect. And then once I have the Runestone Tower, I need 10 gold, but I'm going to tell this guy to focus on barrier carriers. That way we can break those down earlier. I don't have a perk that makes them stronger, but I do have I have 9 perks right now that we'll go through after this wave. I feel like we haven't had enough combat and aggression. And so let's kick this thing on off and see if we survive. But up here in the top right-hand corner, it tells you every day that you defend what your bonus is going to be, like what you're going to get out of that experience. And one of the more useful things that you can get is always going to be banners. Banners are where the game gets interesting. Banners are basically flags that are hung from the gates of your city that make your towers do interesting things. In some cases, they just give flat percentage-based increase to firing rate or damage or something like that. In other cases, they may make it interact in interesting ways. So, for example, when you've got a lightning tower over here, I've got a banner that makes it so every single time my lightning tower crits, for the rest of the run, its crit rate is increased by a certain amount. If you wanted to find a synergy for that, there is also another banner in this game that makes it so that your lightning tower gets a proportional amount of damage added onto its crit that's directly related to its critical hit chance. And you're starting to see how that works, but on top of that, there are also these things called fusions. So if you have certain combinations of banners for certain towers, the game will offer you a fusion, which is a special way in which 2 different towers can interact with each other in order to achieve explosive, ridiculous results. So for example, my mortar tower right now inherits some percentage of the damage that's being produced by every single default arrow tower that I have built on the map, thus incentivizing me to build tons tons and tons and tons of arrow towers. That way I'm dealing lots of damage with my mortars and just directly blowing guys up with casts. On top of that, I've got a banner that makes it so that I leave fire pools all over the hexes whenever these fire. I think there's a synergy with the arrow towers on top of that for another fusion that makes it so every single arrow shot will increase the amount of burns on an enemy that's already burning, and also increases the damage if they're inside of a fire field. And so there's lots of fun things to play around with inside this game. There's loads and loads of variety here. Every single run that I've seen over the last couple hours has had some new angle that I can work to make it a little bit further on into the game, or sometimes I just fail catastrophically. You never quite know how it's gonna go. Sometimes you got a good run, sometimes you got a bad run where nothing seems to go right. Let's clear these guys out with an AoE right here. They're looking like they've got a little bit too much HP for my final grid to finish them off. I usually try to hold off and wait when I've got my casting to go, but I'm kind of at the end of the playthrough right here because I wanted to show you what the game looks like once it's actually fully spun up right at the beginning of the game. And then if we have time later on down the line, what I'll do is I'll start a fresh run if we end up dying here, so that you can see what that looks like as well with all of the things that I've got going on, so that maybe we bring you in at a little bit less overwhelming of a point. Hopefully they get that elite right there, but he keeps blocking my attacks. I think most of the damage that's getting him at the moment is gonna be, he's got a lot of armor, doesn't he? Every single one of these little guys has stats. He's got a 20% chance to avoid all damage every single time he's hit. And so, hey, you got him. Very nice. Looks like we're mostly safe over here. Mortar towers should be able to pick off these little guys with flame walls. And I think we're in pretty good shape for right now. It looks like that wave went really, really well. Here's one of those banners that I was talking about. So the power of your runestone towers is distributed across 3 beams to attack different enemies. The damage of the beam is reduced to the damage specified below. That's not too bad. Turning those into a little bit of like an AoE disco ball tower might be kind of an interesting idea. If I had a bunch of synergies and I had a whole bunch of merges and fusions and stuff that made it so that they ticked a little faster, we're inheriting damage from somewhere else, I could see that being a really appealing thing to do. We've got Focus Rune over here. Runestone towers increase their damage for each second that they continuously target the same target. I think that's pretty good. I'll take that. So every second they get 12% more damage. I think most of them have damage increases right now, so that should be nice. For you on this side, let's start boosting up your crit damage, because your crit is getting up to the point where you should be critting quite a lot. This guy over here, let's increase your baseline damage. I would also like for you, can I set up like a, yeah, so let's maybe go for barrier carriers if they make it this far. Elites if they make it this far, then highest HP on that one. These guys need a level up. Since my mortars are inheriting a percentage of the damage from arrow towers, we always want to go with damage on my arrow towers. There we go. So we've got that all nice and covered. I don't see any more level ups around, but we do have a chest on the field because we killed an elite, and it is just full of supplies. What do I want right now? I will take stone, I think. Stone sounds like a good pickup. That feels like something that I'd like to have. I don't have any great islands over here that I could put a frost tower on to AoE and slow them down as they're running on in. It's a little concerning. I do have enough right now, though, to go pretty nuts with mortar towers. I could also get a few more arrow towers on in. That might be nice. There's some other buildings that I can build, though. So I can get a statue. Let's get a statue and see what that does for me. So select your blessed tower. It allows me to just increase the damage of one tower type by 30%. It's going to have to be the volcano mortar. That's the one that I've got all my synergies for, and it's the one that I've got boosted up like crazy. There is a 2% chance that this tower type will generate a gold on kill. That might actually be incredible because they're ticking from the fire dot on the ground. The direct damage is killing guys. I'm wondering if this, so hear me out, if they have the tick damage on them and they're killed by a different tower while the tick is on them, I'm hoping that there's a programming oversight right there that makes that work. I don't think it will. That seems like the kind of thing that you would like test for, but I'm a little bit scummy, so I'd like to give it a try. Let's get another mortar tower in a good spot here. The little numbers you're seeing are the altitudes of the areas around. There's a 4-banger right there. The magic sigil isn't getting me where I want to be, though. Maybe I'll go right there to soften up this lane. That feels okay to me. I've got enough stuff for more arrow towers, too. So let's get another one of those just so these get even more damage added on in. Right now it looks like they're getting about 37 damage from the arrow towers that I have built, which will be good. Now we'll open up this lane over on this side, and let's see if we survive this one or if it goes horribly. I was actually hoping that while I did my intro, we would be good to go for that one wave, and then we would die on the next wave so that we could do a fresh playthrough and show you how the game runs from the beginning. But this is also a much better representation of what the gameplay looks like once you start getting into more serious waves. And so, to my eye, I think the game starts to get gnarliest around wave like 20 or 25, but for the moment, this is actually a pretty good route. You're starting to see a lot of the enemy variety types. You're starting to see the problems that those enemy variety types bring up. Hey, barrier carrier's dead. I just saw him snipe him, so he's actually doing his job. That's good. Are you shooting a barrier carrier over here? He's shooting that one. Okay, he's picking him off. I think I need to try to get his fire rate increased, but my guess is, yeah, it's only going to go up ever so slightly. So I think a better plan might be to get 2 of these. This game is full of really good quality of life, a lot of the annoyances that exist inside of a tower defense game. For example, if you've got towers, so let's say you've got arrow towers, there's nothing more annoying in a game like this than when 2 towers fire at the same time at the same mob, even though it's gonna die, because that means like one of your towers has wasted its shot. I've been playing around with arrow towers on the sides of the road, and I think there may be something stopping them from doing that. I had them targeting basically the same thing, but I only saw them shoot at the same target like one time when it was gonna die while I was playing through, and I thought that was like a really, really nice little thing to have. It just makes the game feel better to play, so you're not wasting your shots. In the case of like the mortars, for example, these mortars over here, what I've seen in a lot of games like this, tower defense games, is that the mortar will fire directly at the enemy and hit behind where they were. In this game, it goes through and it leads them, and so it fires in front of whatever the selected target is that you've managed to put together for your grid of mortars. And so I really, really like stuff like that, because I've seen a lot of tower defense games where that stuff's just not really there, and it just seems to kind of deftly dodge all of it. I don't know if these guys are going to get through. They're massing up a little bit right here. Let's soften them up so that when they get hit, there's a solid chance that they'll die. We've only got 1 barrier left on the field, so hopefully that barrier gets shot by the Raven Tower before too long. There it is. Okay, that's been opened up. And these guys are trying to make it, but I don't know if they will. It's a little thick over here, but they are getting slowed by the Frost Tower, and by the time they get here, there's a threat right there. That's a big threat. We have one of the splitter enemies right there that broke into like a million billion different enemies when it died. And this can be a really solid case for how games tend to end. You've got 2 or 3 of those popper mobs over here. They pop right near the end. They start sprinting with like 50 guys towards the gate. And it doesn't matter if it's a weak enemy or a strong enemy. You lose 1 HP per guy. So like a little horde of dudes can still mess you up. Since that's happened 2 waves in a row, I think we're going to need to reinforce this area with a little bit more AoE protection. Are we done here? No, we're not. There's actually another batch right there. Cool. We've got a perk that we've unlocked. Very, very nice. I must have not made it this far into the game before. Volcano Mortar over here, just keep giving me more damage, baby. I want you to buck. I want to hit the enemy with that nasty stuff. For you right here, I would like attack rate, but it just doesn't feel like it's really getting that much of a bonus out of it. So let's go for flat damage for right now. I know this is going to come back to haunt me later on in the game because the enemies start to get very high volumes of armor, and you need to have penetration stat down here in order to get through their armor a lot of the time. And so I know I'm headed for a cliff right now, but I'm already, I think, 4 or 5 waves past my best score, so like, why worry about it? I'm already making progress. I do think that getting another Frost Tower around here somewhere, if I can get a Frost Tower into a choke spot that slows down enemies, I would like to do that. So let's go with that right there. I've got all my workers right now just working on stone because I'm trying to put out a new tower every single wave. I should probably reconfigure these guys to go do something else. We can go with 36 right there. I do have a worker missing, so maybe we go something like that right there. I'm getting bonus wood because there's a chance every single time one of my arrow towers fires that I'll get a free wood. I really like that perk because it means I no longer have to put guys on wood harvesting. It just gives you like 20 or 30 wood per wave as though you have 2 or 3 workers working on it. Really fantastic perk right there. And I do like that the perks aren't all specifically focused on increasing damage or fire rate or whatever else. I like that there's creative perks inside this game that sort of make you think about the economic aspect of the title and how your economy is working. Definitely pleases me. Let's increase our wheat production by a little bit. That'll give us 2 more wheat production per worker, so it brought us up to 56. That's not too bad. And while we're in the neighborhood, I've been using the quarry a lot. Let's make it so that the quarry also gives us more stone per worker. It's a little expensive, but we're getting free gold right now. We've also got a chest over here. I will take the... Oof, tough call. Can I get the worker tomorrow if I take that? How much was the worker? Hide that. Once again, really great feature right there. It doesn't lock you into your selection. You can minimize it and then bring it back up and go check things in between. That's one of those really, really underrated, like, Tynan Sylvester level pieces of quality of life. Really good observation right there from the developer. Okay, let's put this into play. I've got enough wood for 1 more tower. Let's have our mortars get a little bit stronger. We'll put him in right there. And yeah, my mortars have 67 more damage now than they had previously. Take a little more damage right there. I've got a little bit of extra gold. You can have it. Now let's start a new wave. Maybe in this direction. I mean, all portals spawn stuff whenever you start a new wave, but sometimes, so there was a portal right here when my map only went to this 4-way junction. By clearing this one right here, we found out that it looped back into itself, and then it just became 1 lane again. On top of that, you can also get heroes that increase the chance that you won't get crossroads every single time you open up a new map, which I thought was kind of a cool interaction. Oh, Ironbane the Ruthless. Lovely. Well, we'll see how Ironbane the Ruthless goes. Hopefully he's kind of far back. Oh, he's not. He's right there. If he hides under a barrier the whole time, that's going to be a problem. I don't think I hit him with any of that, unfortunately. So my spells are roasted right here at the beginning, which is not great, not crazy ideal. Hopefully, we can get this tower right here to knock a big chunk out of him once the barriers are no longer a concern. In fact, knock out like 1 more barrier if the mortars don't get it, and then focus on the boss. Although, the boss may be inside of a barrier for this thing. You right here, reconfigure your priorities to go after the boss. I'd like to get at least 2 or 3 shots off on him before he gets here. If the boss makes it to the gate, we just die instantaneously, and there's nothing that you can really do about that. He deals maximum HP damage. 1 shot from that tower knocked his health down a reasonable amount, but unfortunately, they've got some kind of healer or something inside of there that's chunking his health back up. These guys are also almost breaching through the gates on this side. Tower didn't see fit to get that one. We wasted our bomb on 1 mob. Ain't that always the way that it seems to go? Oh yeah, these guys are breaking through on this wave. Okay, so I've got to reconfigure things a little bit, but that's what this game is all about. It's about playing around with perks. It's trying to figure out what synergies are benefiting your war effort the best, but into our castle, the enemy streams. That's perfectly fine because I can show you the metagame progression, although it does already exist inside the game. So based on how far I made it, I can unlock a new building. We can get the Oracle, which allows us to gamble on future waves in order to get rewards, but also make the game harder. Or we can get a market that allows us to buy relics from a changing selection. I'll probably go with the market. That sounds good. We've unlocked a bunch of new perks over here that we've gone through, and in 3 hours, I've only unlocked about 100 of 400 different perks, and that's not even buying all of them. That's just unlocking them. So after waves here, you will be able to go to your upgrades. These are the in-game upgrades right here, though. So we'll go back to our... There we go. I want the meta perks. As you proceed through the game, you're going to get a thing called Honor. What Honor does is Honor allows you to buy things either during your run or after your run. This game makes its metagame progression like, integrated. You don't have to wait to get your perks. The second you've got enough honor, you can spend it in-game for metagame, you can spend it out of game for metagame, it's up to you. I will probably choose to start the game with more gold, and then I will choose to start the game, I think, oh, I'm on the final tier of that one. Apparently I had that idea already to get more wheat at the beginning of the game. Then I will go for a little bit of extra wood at the beginning of the game, and then from there, I'll probably increase the choice of legendary relics that I get off of bosses, just because they can be really, really game-changing, and so you want the legendaries to come up. Let's play again and dive back on, and you can see what the early game looks like. So at the beginning of every single game, you get a bonus, and you can just pick what bonus you want. So I could gamble right now, I could get 100 wood, but enemies will be 30% stronger for the first 10 waves. Not a terrible pickup. I could get 50 stone. 50 stone is also a solid pickup, so I'll take the 50 stone since I tend to like the towers that use a lot of stone. We've got 35 gold this time around, which is absolutely fantastic. Let's take a look at our economy first, and I've got to rebuild all my buildings because we're in a fresh game right now. So let's go with the mill. We're going to need that before too long. We're definitely going to need the quarry before too long. Not going to need the gold mine right now. The tavern makes it so all of our workers are more efficient while they're going to work, so that might be worth wearing. But for the moment, let's get a worker, I think. So we'll get our fourth worker on the first day. We'll build, how much is this going to cost me? It's going to cost me 10 wood. All right. We'll get our first house so that we've already got pop cap increased just right here, like the second we started out. I could lower the cost of getting more workers with the gold that I have on hand, or I could use it for more badass towers. It's just up to us. I like having an arc tower right at the beginning. I feel like an arc tower right at the beginning with solid range, and then we set this to always go after the enemy that is closest to the village with the highest HP, I think will be good. And we can just explore this right now after we assign our workers. I want to get more workers, so I'm going to go for 40 food right now because we've got plenty of resources sitting around at the moment that we're not going to have to worry about. Building our early towers, and this is the first wave, 3 guys. So you can see the acceleration and difficulty between wave 1 and like wave 20, which I just showed you. The game starts out very lackadaisical, but don't let it get you comfortable. You get too comfortable, you're going to get wiped in this game. So with 60 food, can I get another worker? Let's get another worker, and then we will plop another worker right there maybe. No, let's put a worker on wood for right now, just so we've got a nice little trickle coming on in. Actually, since we can't get a worker, so what's our best combination here? We need 80, so we can get a worker technically in 2 turns no matter what we do. If I take that back to 30, unfortunately, it's not going to work that way. Okay, so we'll leave that on 40 for right now, and then I think I should be able to reconfigure things on the next run. 1 tower should do it here, I think. I don't think we need to worry about it. But give me a couple arrow towers right there just to give us a little bit more oomph on the get back, and I'll save my more expensive resources like stone for places where I really feel like I need a frost tower or like a runestone tower. I still haven't done the tornado tower or the shadow tower yet. I spent all, I could have gotten one right now, I guess, but I spent it all on metagame perks to make my start a little bit smoother. We still need the 40 for another worker, so I'm going to leave everything exactly where it's at. We'll explore one more time to increase the size of the map. It should still be completely and totally defeatable. I'm not really too worried till after wave 10. I'm kind of lackadaisical at the beginning of the game because I've played through it a bunch of times now. Game toasted me. But this is one of those games that's got absolutely fantastic just about everything. If you're into tower defense games, this one to me is up there with Rogue Tower, which is one of my favorite tower defense games just for absolute complete mayhem. This is one of the few out there that I think lives up to that roguelitification or roguelikefication of that idea. There's lots of slick quality of life here. There's lots of really good ideas. There's lots of problems that just come from incompetent coding or just not noticing the intricacies of how a tower defense games work that over repeated 40-hour play really annoy a player when they're done wrong. This game is doing all of those things right, and so there's a lot to like here. Let's take 12% damage. and then the 10% chance for it to fire a double arrow, because I've had that perk before, and the double arrow doesn't hit the target it's shooting at. It fans out to a different target, and so I find that that's not a terrible banner if you're trying to spread the love around, because you get extra arrows 10% of the time, and you get 12% damage every single time, so, like, why worry about it? With you right here, let's go for range on you, actually. So that you can hit all the way to the gate is going to be my goal for this guy, because I don't want them to run past and outrange me. We've got enough for another worker right now, so let's hire another one. And now that we've got our workers assigned, I can't really do anything until I have 70 wood to build another house. So I can spread my guys around a little bit right now. Let's go right there to get the house. And then maybe after that, maybe we'll split this right here. I don't like splitting my resource generation, but I'm not convinced that I actually need that much wood. Let's pop this. What am I looking at right now? So I've got a 3 right there. I kind of don't want to put down mortars until it curves back on itself somewhere, so that I'm attacking 2 lanes, or 3 lanes ideally, for maximum uptime on the mortars. So let's just put something a little more focused out here. That'd work, but it's not a great jetty for that. That's also not ideal. That might work. That's useless. It's possible that our better bet might just be a really high altitude lightning tower right there. We'll go with that. That'll be all right. It'll pull us through. We've got resources coming in, and we're living the dream life right now. Keep on shooting them. Get them all nice and whittled away, and then we'll worry about things once we get out of here. Let's just speed it up. The game does have time controls as well, just in case, you know. I've ended up in situations where I have a really good defensive spot that's like right in front of the gate, where I can really pour the punishment on the enemy every now and again, and they've got to walk for like a minute and a half before they get to my base. I just speed it up for those ones. It's just easier for that. I think now would probably be the time for a mortar tower. I mean, it looks like it's going to double back on itself right here. We're like barely hanging in there as it stands right now. Just give me an arrow tower and we'll see how wave 5 goes. It didn't double back as hard as I wanted it to. Okay. We're going to have to vary our strategy a little bit then. We're going to have to play around with it ever so slightly. Well, we've got to see what we get for our heroes and their bonuses, and we've got to see what we get for our opening banner choices as well. Before we start dedicating to any one type of turret, let's get your fire rate up. Let's get your fire rate up. I want these guys to be like, since they're getting that 10% proc chance for a double arrow, we can sort of force a synergy right there by always giving them speed upgrades. We've got our hero. We've got to pick him for the rest of the game. So we can get a chest full of goodies and 100 wood. We can get cheaper trading ships, but I don't have a trading ship right now, so it doesn't matter. I could get one, but I haven't gotten it. A higher elite enemy chance, but they drop a chest whenever they come through, and chests give you resources and stuff. And then he's got less chance for there to be junctions. I'll probably take Holstein, I think. Let's take him to get the 100 wood. And with the 100 wood we now have on hand, I'm going to take the 37 stone right there. He's got Fireball. Not bad. He's got Chain Lightning. That's good. So he's got a single target attack, and he's got an AoE attack too, which will be helpful. It gives me a little bit of variability. You can cast them 2 times per wave based on the energy of the hero. Your hero does level up as the game goes along. Like I said, lots of complexity and depth to this game. Your hero does level up. When he levels up, he gives you a choice of 2 out of like 15 upgrades. There's like a list of like 10 upgrades or 15 upgrades that do a bunch of different things. They can give you more casts per round. They can make it so that your towers generate resources. They can make it so everything gets a bunch more range that's sort of tied to the elements that they cast. It sort of depends, but these guys level up too, I think every 10 or every 12 waves or something like that. Let's go with, now that I'm a little bit more stocked up, that's not a great mortar spot. I'm not like, I guess it's better than nothing. I'll put in a couple mortars right there. I don't have anything upraised over here, though, to make the beam tower work. That one doesn't. With these beam towers, you really want like a little spot that juts out like that, but it's also on higher altitude, or it has a magic rune on it. So I kind of want to sit on my resources and wait and see what happens. It's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't think... There we go. See, like this right here. 0.6 range versus 0.5 range. It'd be nicer if it had a higher altitude, I guess. But it'll work. These guys are just going to bomb out enemies. What are they going after right now? Highest HP? No. Go for the largest cluster of enemies, please. Yeah, all you guys should be on the largest cluster of enemies. Like, wherever you can score the biggest killing blow is where I want you. Whatever puts the most corpses on the pile for the enemy. Good. Throw a fireball over there. Why not? Just have fun with it. This is a throwaway round anyways. It doesn't really matter. New banner. So a rapid archer. Your arrow tower now fires 3 arrows at a time, but each one does reduced damage. I don't think... does each of those arrows have a chance to proc the extra arrow that's on a 10% chance? If it does, you might be able to turn your towers with enough fire rate increase. You might be able to turn it into sort of like a like non-stop machine gun, which I think is kind of interesting, but you would have to get it to either make enemies bleed, or you would have to get the synergy where it deals increased, it adds fire ticks to each enemy that it hits with the flame arrows. Let's re-roll it. Opening blitz. Arc tower hits deal increased damage against enemies with more than 70% health. Not terrible. I'll hate it. I can upgrade this right here to deal more damage and have lots and lots of extra shot chance. Let's keep going down that rabbit hole, and let's see what we get out of it, because we've got a few spots right here where I can fit in arrow towers to just sort of dookie on kids while they're coming down here. This guy right here, I almost always go with crit chance because the arc towers seem to have a lot of perks that benefit from crit chance. I think we're in a spot right now where I can pretty safely ignore stone for a second, because I've got enough to build what I want to build before too long. And so we'll kind of like leave that there, and we'll start accumulating as much wood as we possibly can, because I've got to build another house for more villagers. It's time for us to upgrade our economy and make it work a little bit better. Maybe a Frost Nova tower right there. That might work. I want to see how frequently these guys proc their like multi-arrow chance. He just did it right there. With a 15% chance, it should happen a decent amount of the time. If I can keep upgrading that banner and get it up to like 30-40%, that would be the best situation. But they're procking it out of this little 3 group. Every single cycle, at least one of them gets the proc. So that's really, really good. If you don't know what a proc is, it's a program randomized occurrence. So anything you see in a video game that's like a 15% chance to light your enemy on fire every time you hit them, that's a proc. When it goes off, you also call it procking. I don't know how many people are into MMORPGs where that's frequently used. I could send off my workers for 4 waves to get a legendary banner. I don't know if I'm brave enough. We've got a boss wave in there. I'll send 2 workers to go get a common banner. I'm too much of a coward. Let's get some more fire rate in here. We've got enough wood to build up another house. So there we go. One little detail I do like is every time you upgrade one of these buildings or add a new one, like something changes about the appearance. That's very, very nice. That's good quality of life that, once again, gives you a visual representation of advancement, which I've always been. Those of you that hang out on the channel will know I'm always really, really into anything that does that. Let's send another wave real quick. That last wave, oh, okay, there's a chest. I didn't even see the chest. Let's take food. We're trying to get more workers right now, so food will work. What's my next worker cost anyways, 100? Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a couple waves before we get them, so we'll throw that right there, and let's let another wave come on in, but I don't really have any complaints about this game. This is stellar work. I'm actually doing this last part in post because I played for another couple hours, and once you get into banking and like the trade ship part of the game, it gets even better. They give you all kinds of controls over your economy and ways to get around shortages and ways to earn tons of cash and tons of logs and tons of stones and just have loads of towers. The more I play, the more little wrinkles, features, and fun choices the game throws at me. for Nordhold, it gets full marks. I don't even really like tower defense games unless it's got a really solid hook, you know, something like Creeper World. But what they've got going on with this one, blending Rogue Towers ideas with a general sort of Slay the Spire feeling of synergy and customization, and then a turn-based resource city management builder phase like Dottage, it comes out the other end with a slick, enjoyable chunk of gameplay. I like it. I don't really have anything to critique here. I got addicted to it. I think if you like tower defense games or synergy building roguelites, you'll probably have a really good time with this one. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, Nordhold. Tomorrow it'll be something else. Bye, folks.